Hello, this is Dr. Jan Bravo, and I'm here today with Dr. Ted Loder.
Good afternoon.
Ted.
Good afternoon, Jan. Good to speak to you again.
Hi. Well, today we have some great things to talk about. We're going to be talking about the recent Crestone CSETI conference, and then you're going to be giving some information on the energy situation, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Well, for everyone's information, for anyone who missed the Crestone training, it was wonderful. Dr. Greer last week led a group to our annual week in Crestone, Colorado. The weather was lovely, and the interactions were even better. I'm sorry you couldn't be there, Ted.
Yeah, me too. I had too many family things going on that week. I'm sorry to miss it. I've enjoyed Crestone for many, many years, actually. It's a beautiful place. It's
really an enchanting place with the mountains and being in that safe valley, which, again, is called the Bloodless Valley because of all the places in the country where wars have been fought, there haven't been wars fought there, and that's pretty special for the energy there. In any case, we had some wonderful activity. Of course, in the afternoon, Dr. Greer led discussions, and we did remote viewing practice and some meditation exercise, as well as updates on energy and other things going on. However, the nights were spectacular. Just to let you know a few of the things that went on several nights when we were out there, we were having moonless nights, so of course it was dark and beautiful, except for the wonderful pattern of stars in the sky. On most nights, we had a lot of ET activity after meditation, and in fact, with this training, it started really upon arrival on the first night and just kept going. Even before meditation, there was a lot of contact. We saw multiple objects in the sky, and we carry satellite charts, and these were not satellites. And we also realized that they were not satellites or human-made objects that we know because they would move quickly and then slow down. They'd change direction. They'd become bright, then they'd become dim. And I think, Ted, you've done this on various occasions.
Yes, that is, and that's certainly one indication of things when an object goes over and it just goes in a straight line. It could be a satellite or it might not be, but if it changes direction, keep in mind, satellites do not change direction. They're locked into the orbital orbit that they're in, and they will just go in one straight direction. Even though it might seem like they move, they don't. They go in one direction. So an object that slows down, stops, or makes a right turn, or makes a major jog in the sky is certainly not a satellite, but it is a object under intelligent control. It could be human, but it could very well be ET as well.
Right. On other nights, and at least 3 separate nights this happened, it was quite dark. We were in our circle, and we saw a bright flash just inside the circle. Now, when this happened, my witness to it was that I thought someone had flashed a camera, so I didn't say anything. Interestingly, someone mentioned it several minutes after it happened, and the interesting thing was that just about everybody in the circle saw it, and it was just inside the circle, and it was bright enough to illuminate the entire circle. We could see everybody. It happened for just a moment. But the interesting thing was that many people commented, I thought someone took a flash shot with a digital camera, and no one had.
That's interesting, Jan, because we have seen that a number of times, both at Crestone and I'm thinking about a year and a half ago or so in the Joshua Tree. the group was there, and there was a flash in the sky, but very, very low, just a few hundred feet from the group that illuminated the group, and it was spectacular. Everybody who was awake, and even some people with their eyes closed could see the flash kind of through their eyelids. And it was interesting because unlike a flash camera, which is kind of a blue light, is very, very very, very rapid, this flash was kind of like more like the old flash bulbs, and it was exactly, and more of a warm, pinkish, warm light. Now that's the one I remember so dramatically. I've seen others too, but that was really sticks in my mind. So I'm wondering if this one in Crestone had those qualities to it.
It did.
Yeah, and you felt like there was some energy associated with it that you could feel. It's hard to put it in the words. You can't prove anything, but it was very different than just somebody's camera going off, particularly when the one in the, I don't know whether you could actually see the origin of the light, in other words, see the flash go off. I know I have seen that a number of times, see the flash go off, and other times it's just like the group is illuminated, but the light is from everywhere and nowhere. You can't tell where it's coming from.
Right. At this point, we seem to be able to localize it a bit more as to the direction in the circle. However, it was the interesting thing was, as he said, everyone felt a certain type of energy from it. But the other good thing about it was a very peaceful thing. It was non-invasive, and it was really a communication of some sort, and that was wonderful.
Yeah, you get a feeling of like, wow, what was that? Sort of this wide-eyed, childlike wonder. Wow, what was that? Wow, that was beautiful sort of feeling, as opposed to something scary or whatever else. Just a wonderful thing. It's one of the many ways the ETs make contact or communicate with us.
Exactly. So it happened again, and. At this one, I almost forgot to mention, a person got a bubble in her compass. Do you want to explain that phenomenon, Ted?
Well, yeah, we've seen this happen before, and at the original time it happened was when Dr. Greer was in England, and the ET craft came within a few hundred yards or whatever it was in the field and sort of circled, hanging right above the field in front of them. And after that, his compass had gone haywire, and I believe had a bubble in it for a period of time, and then it all got better a number of months, a year later. And he talks about that in one of his books. And we've seen this in Crestone too. Now, keep in mind that a compass is a sealed device, and there's a liquid in there to dampen the needle, so it swings and doesn't rattle around too much. And so there should be absolutely no air or anything in this, and we've seen this phenomena a number of times. What is happening there, I don't know. I just don't know. But we've seen a number of people have suddenly had never had bubbles in their compass before, and yet there they are for a period, and then it's there for a while and disappears again. So once again, one of those very anomalous things. Don't know quite what to do with it, but it's one of those little dots that one connects the various phenomena.
Yeah, and what you said is very important. It's associated with people seeing or feeling a craft that's nearly materialized, that is close.
Yeah.
And that's when we notice it. Other things that happened, there were so many. We, of course, spent one night on Blanca Peak, which is a really beautiful mountain, a wonderful place that we've gone for several years. And the interesting thing about this place is that we go up there and we have a picnic and some conviviality, as Dr. Greer would say, and then we do our field work. Well, for the last couple of years, we've started doing, including this year, we've started doing a puja there. And Dr. Greer does a puja there before we start our field work. And, of course, this one was beautiful as usual. We did our field work, and almost immediately upon setting up in circle, we had some activity. Now, it had been raining pretty much all day. In fact, it had forced us to stay in and not go climb the sand dunes, which we usually do, early.
That's too bad.
Earlier in the day. Oh, no. We waited for the white rain to pass, and so we went up on the sand dunes late, and it was wonderful there. But then we went over to Blanca Peak. When we got to Blanca Peak, the weather was clear, which was wonderful. And in fact, there was a little rain during the night, but for the most part, we didn't have rain. However, after we started our field work, there were clouds that covered the entire valley. We couldn't see the towns. We couldn't see the mountains. We really couldn't see anything around us. And that was really anomalous. This is not something that routinely happens. Well, shortly after we got in circle, our radar detectors started going off. And there were two that particularly were quite animated. I believe this has been discussed in past times, but Ted,
yes,
would you like to
discussed.
mention that?
Yes, we have talked about that, but it's worthwhile mentioning again for people that might not have heard that those earlier Puja talks.
Okay. We use radar detectors. These are the same ones that are hooked into cars, and we bring them into the circle, and people have them by their chairs. The interesting phenomenon is that we have them go off. There's no source that should be setting them off. Even further, and what is more mysterious, one would say, is that one will go off if there's a source to set them off. Both radar detectors should go off at the same time, right, Ted?
That you would expect that if there's any kind of signal coming at you.
And these were going off almost continuously, separately, and seemingly giving different messages and different responses, but definitely very interactive with what was going on and the information that Dr. was sharing. And they went off almost continuously.
Oh, Jan, you're breaking up a little bit. Well, it looks like I'll continue discussing, and hopefully Jan can break back in again with her phone. When these things go off, now typically you'd expect a radar detector, and we've seen this for the last several years in our field work. We'll have multiple radar detectors, and one will go beep beep, and then another one 5 feet away or 10 feet away may wait 30 seconds. It'll go beep, 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 and then the first one will answer back. And they'll play off each other, interacting with discussions that are going on or what's going on around us. It's quite actually amazing. And there have been occurrences or experiences about 8 months ago in Joshua Tree. They beeped for almost 2 hours back and forth, and there we're sitting out in the middle of the desert, beside a dirt road, no cars within miles of us, and yet here these things are beeping away in a sort of an interactive mode, quite anomalous behavior. And these things are not plugged in, they're battery powered, so they aren't plugged into a car or anything. They're just sitting on the ground near the various people. And what it seems to be happening and what it seems to be occurring, from the best we can tell, is that the radar detectors are basically indicative of something, messages being sent to people there and to Dr. Greer in the team. And he would often, when this was going on, sort of translate and relate what was going on for various people.
That is correct. That is correct. And in fact, the interesting thing about this time, again, was that they were almost continuous in response to us and with us, such that normally we break to go to a special site up on the side of the mountain a little higher, but we didn't. There was no need to break because we go to what we usually call our contact site. There was unbroken contact that evening, and it was really wonderful. Yeah. So
picture yourself, picture, if you want, in your mind, sitting on the side of a mountain, a 14,000+ foot mountain on the south end of the St. Louis Valley in Colorado, south of Crestone, 30 miles, 40 miles or so, sitting on the side of a mountain at about, 10,000 feet or so, surrounded by just the darkness and the mountain behind you. Absolutely stunning location and environment. Nobody else around anywhere within miles. So that's the kind of environment we're talking about here. Go ahead, Jan.
Oh, no, I was going to say that what you're saying is absolutely correct, and it's a very diplomatic, peaceful feeling to have interaction this way.
Mm-hmm.
And there were wonderful other things happening. One night we were outside, and there is a constellation known as the Dolphin. Mm-hmm. And to the right of that constellation are 3 stars in a vertical line, and I don't know if they have a name. But what's interestingly was that the thought was set up, I wonder if those stars could go off. Now, I believe in a previous Puja interview, it was related where the stars went off in the Big Dipper.
Right.
And what we mean by that is just, it's not that the stars went off, but one individual set up the thought, I wish that you could turn the stars off in the Big Dipper, one by one. Well, interestingly, the ET's response to that was to know just where to be to obscure the light so that from our position on Earth, we did not see the light of a star. And
wonderful.
In turn, one star after another in the Big Dipper that first time would go off, and then another one would go off, and seemed to be a mathematical pattern. This night, I was thinking the same thing. I wish the stars would go off. And in fact, my thought was transmitted by a consciousness, and there were 7 of us who saw one star after the other in these 3 stars go out and come on.
Oh, wonderful.
And this happened on multiple rounds.
Just to set the stage for people, I assume this was a perfectly cloudless night.
Yes.
As is so often there in Crestone Valley. Or
correct.
The St. Louis Valley. It's perfectly clear night, so no clouds. So it's not like a cloud was obscuring the star for a moment or so.
That is correct. That is correct. I'm glad you pointed that out.
Wonderful.
And that was wonderful. And I know that there's a great deal more that I could share, but to think of everything is difficult. I need my other peripheral brains, as we call them here, to do so. So this is just a taste of what Crestone was, and it was a wonderful week. And there are a lot of other wonderful weeks coming up. But we just wanted to give you a little information on that.
I was going to mention sort of at a broader picture, it's worthwhile pointing out that typically the ETs interact with us at a number, when we're in the field, at a number of different levels. It's not, there isn't this big shiny disc-shaped thing that shows up in front of you and waggles its bottom at you or waggles around or whatever shines light on you, although the shining lights on the group has happened. But it's typically not that in your face. It's typically, much more subtle. And so the ETs are trying to train us, if you will, us to interact at the conscious level and to be able to at a much more subtle level and to see. So it's like they're almost training us to be more observant, to look around you, to think, to visualize, and to interact in that way. And as we've talked about before, Linda Willits and I have spoken, and Dr. Greer has spoken with Linda and with myself about different phenomena that occur in the field. And so there may be these subtle things like the stars blinking off and on, and we've often seen what we call flash bulbs in the sky flashing on and off at us. While the star is moving by, the flashes stay in the same location, sometimes for more than an hour. So there's a lot of interaction that's going on with the group, but it's very often subtle. And people say, well, why don't they just, the old why don't they land on the lighthouse lawn approach to things? And I think what most people don't realize is that Earth is pretty much, or at least certain areas are pretty much an armed camp, and the ETs are very careful about sort of showing up because U.S. covert covert military operations have techniques to track and shoot them down if appropriately, or if necessary, or if they can. And so the ETs have to be very, very careful about sort of showing up, sometimes particularly when we go out in the field, because they know we're there and they know that things happen when we're out there. Things always happen, but it may be in a way that isn't obvious to the casual observer. In fact, it's funny because sometimes people will go out there and they'll sit there for several days and not see a thing going on, and yet all around them these various events are happening, but they're subtle. They're looking for the trailer truck, and what they're missing is lights, sounds, smells, and other interactions going on all around them, and they totally miss it.
That's a good point. Phenomenon. And again, it's all peaceful. It's all non-intrusive.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Right. So that's how our week was.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's wonderful. I wish I had been there. I hope to come to some of the next trainings with you guys, and certainly enjoy it as always. We have many of these trainings are held at just spectacularly beautiful places. We've mentioned the St. Louis Valley, and Mount Shasta in California is a lovely place. Joshua Tree National Monument with the strange Joshua trees and the beautiful desert-like landscape is also beautiful. So there are many places we go that are just quite spectacular in their own right. And you add on to that the ET contact, what have you, it makes it quite special.
Right.
Well, Jan, do you want? Should I? Maybe we get back to that if you think of anything else that you want to mention. Should we just sort of give a quick update on some of the energy things?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Well, first of all, there's not much to say right now. I think some people are waiting to know what's going on with the Stan Meyer technology. All I can say is that we are in negotiations, and that's basically all I can say. We are in negotiations with the people that have the materials, and nothing more can happen until that process is complete.
Okay.
We're working with a couple of groups in Canada, one we've mentioned in the past and one we haven't mentioned, but there's some slow movement up there, although we have not seen nor tested any device yet that's from those groups that's over Unity. We're hoping, sometime soon, within the next couple months, to have some more visits with our some Canadian colleagues and see how that moves forward. And those are the right now some of the major activities that we're supporting and working with people on. And I guess I'll step back a moment and just talk about these energy technologies. We have people who almost constantly, meaning once every few days or once a week or so, contact us with interesting information about a device that they have heard of or seen, or they saw a YouTube video on it, and it looks like the next best thing. And frankly, what we're looking for, having chased after a lot of these technologies that were quote ready for prime time, and only to find in reality that they were not ready for any time at all, and that the inventor needs either an infinite amount of money to try out his or her idea, or that it's almost there if they just need a few thousand, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars more, and go up to millions. Right. We've heard it all. To finish their ideas. And in reality, that's not what we're looking for. We're at a point where if you have something that actually functions and works and can allow us to test it in a complete open manner after signing NDAs, then we might be able to work together and also be willing to, if it works as promised, to allow us to bring it forward in terms of multiple testing at universities or government labs or whatever else in an open manner to be multiply tested, because just having one person say, oh, I saw it and it works beautifully. We have seen, as have many others in the new energy world, and I know many people in it, have been burned or fooled by and right on down to either many things happen. The inventor doesn't really know how to measure input and output for a device, just doesn't know how to do it, or has erroneously done it. In other words, he doesn't know how to do it, or right on up to total fraud. A colleague of mine went to Africa a number of months ago to test out a device, and there it had been tested by a bunch of engineers. It looked very, very promising. He goes down there with several people, and they find out that the man had hidden wires inside the table, which were providing power to the device that he was showing on the table. He had really drilled little channels in the table to hide the wires. And it was total fraud. And yet somebody had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars with that person. So, frankly, we know it's possible, but we're very, very skeptical at this point. So if people have something that actually works, and one of the things that we've asked people multiple times is that if you have a device, have you closed the loop? And what this means is that if a device is producing power, it may take power to run. For example, a motor generator might take power to run around in circles. But if it's producing more power than needed to run it, then, and if it works as advertised, there should be a way to recycle some of that power, to loop it, bring it back to run itself. And this is not the perpetual motion machine. It would appear that way, but if it's designed correctly and is using zero-point energy, it's extracting energy from the quantum vacuum state, of which there is excess energy, as has been talked about before in this program. And so it's not impossible. It doesn't violate laws of physics, et cetera, et cetera. So if a person can do that, that's sort of the ultimate proof. And kind of nobody can argue with one. But if it's taking power from the wall to run itself, and it's just a few milliwatts or a watt or two more than the power from the wall, and it may not be. It just may not be a functional thing. And we have so many inventors who tell us that the device it's over unity because if you measure the torque, it it goes on and like that. And our comment is, fine, loop the device, have it power itself, and then you can't argue it, because here is the reason. Here's the problem. If you have a device that's plugged into the wall and you have to measure all kinds of weird measurements in order to prove it's doing anything, it's very, very difficult to prove to a bankers or a financier or investor that this device is doing what it says, because most investors, particularly if they have a lot of money, are going to bring in their own scientists or engineers to evaluate the device. And because typically, no offense to anybody here, but typically they're going to be more not rigorous, but more normal, shall we say, in their approach to energy. They're going to be saying it's impossible, unless it's in their face and they just can't argue with it. One of the problems with a number of these devices, for example, is that the power they put out is not 60 hertz sine wave or 50 hertz sine wave power, but it is noisy power, spiky power, or whatever else. Well, you can't use normal voltmeters or whatever else to get a true measure of RMS or the true measure of the power coming out of it, because they're designed to read sine waves, which is what your normal power coming out of the wall is in a sine wave. So if it's some weird form or shape or pulsed power coming out of the device, it's very, very difficult to determine the actual amount without very sophisticated equipment, typically, which most inventors do not have, and so they can often misread the meters, or using standard meters to measure non-standard power. So that's another problem, which is why my argument about looping the system sort of ends that discussion. Here it is running itself. You're lighting light bulbs, powering a radio, fan, whatever, and it's still running itself. It's hard to argue about that no matter what the meter says, because there it is running things. So these are at least some of the ideas. So we're at a point now where we're expecting if somebody has something that is really revolutionary and can possibly change the way we do energy work on this planet, then we would love to see it. But a device that needs several $100,000 and might work or so is something that we're very much shying away from unless there's an incredible possibility to it.
All good
Any
points.
questions, Jan?
Yeah, well, actually, all good points. And another word of caution, everything that's brought to us, we do speak with people and check out. The interesting thing, though, is that videos don't tell a lot. In fact, they tell very little because, as you said, a lot can be hidden and a lot is not seen on videos. So there are a lot of things that people have emailed us videos and pointed us in different places about what's on YouTube, that this is the next best thing. We wish it was. We really do wish that it were, and everything we found so far hasn't been. We're very glad for someone else to get something out if they can do it, because we're ready for the world to have another source of energy and abundance for everyone. But all the points you've made are really important. And as I say, we're open to whatever we can do to solve this energy problem, but with the caveats that you've given, I think they're very important.
Well, I'd like to add one more caveat, and that's the following. We have on our team scientists and engineers who are ready to help us evaluate technology. You cannot evaluate, as Jan just said, something that's on YouTube with somebody standing in front of waving their hand over a meter that you don't even know how it's connected to the device, saying, look, 7.46, whatever else, and then just waving his hands. In order to prove and demonstrate, you really need hardcore data. This is for example, if batteries are being used in the device, what is their amp hourage? What is their voltage? Who manufactures the battery? What kind of batteries are they? Do you have discharge curves for the batteries? How much power can they hold at a discharge rate of 20 amps, 20 amp hours, or a discharge rate of 20 amps, or 10 amps, or 50 amps? Batteries, for example, hold different amounts of power depending upon their discharge rate. And so it's very tricky. And so and furthermore, so you need hardcore set of data and a really detailed analysis of the machine or the device with real numbers, certified by engineers standing there taking note of these numbers at various times. So put together the appropriate discharge curves, recharge curves, or whatever is necessary to prove the device is working. For example, if you have a set of batteries that might be running, let's say, some light bulbs for an hour or two, and the batteries hold enough power to run the light bulb for 2 hours, you don't run the device for 2 hours and say, see, it's working, without and then stopping. In other words, you'd have to run it many times longer than the battery capacity in order to negate the possibility that this is just battery self-recharging or bounce back or whatever else. So it has to be done there's no possible way this can be fudged with some hardcore numbers. And then we've seen a number of YouTube things and other quote evidence that a device is working as advertised, but without any really hardcore data. And without hardcore data, it's not believable because there are too many frauds out there, and we have seen a lot of them, believe me, over the number of years we've been working in this business.
Right.
So, Jan, any more thoughts?
Well, we're still.
Well, that's my soapbox on this thing. It's been very frustrating over the years.
It's important information for people to have, and as I say, we want something to come out, whether we can help someone do it or they can do it on their own. The goal is to help this planet. So I think we're all on the same page there.
Yes, we are.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Since we spoke about Crestone, it's probably helpful to bring up a few upcoming activities that people may be interested in. Let's see. This weekend, in fact, in Charlottesville, Virginia, we're having a lecture and a workshop. And let's see, on July 10th.
Jan, you might tell people that this is very important because it's coming up right away, and anybody in that area who might want to attend this workshop might want to check out the details at www.cseti.org.
That is correct.
The website, and look for upcoming events on that website. That's www.cseti.org, not to be confused with SETI, please. That's CSETI, Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And look up the event in terms of where it is and costs and how to get there, et cetera, et cetera. Go ahead.
Okay, no, that's important. Thank you for saying that. The lecture will be on July 10th in the evening, and then the next day, on Saturday, there will be a workshop in the afternoon where we will be reviewing, Dr. Greer will be reviewing the CSETI contact protocols and remote viewing, and then that evening we'll go out for a wonderful evening under the stars.
Yes,
and you can really experience what we've been talking about. Now, what we're doing is several of these weekends over the course of the year. We do have a workshop and expedition under the stars in Petaluma, California on August 30th. And
say that more slowly, Jan, would you please?
Okay, it's all on the website.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, I tend to talk fast. August 30th in the afternoon, for example, there will be a workshop in Petaluma, California. And again, the training in the CSETI contact protocols, remote viewing, and discussion in the afternoon, followed by an actual expedition under the stars that night. So if you check the site, you'll see where all these are. There is one special conference I do want to mention that we're quite excited about, and it's a first of its kind for us. It's going to be October 24th to 26th. It's called Contact, Countdown to Transformation. And it's a special 3-day conference in Rio Rico, which is just outside of Tucson, Arizona. Dr. Stephen Greer will be speaking and leading this conference. Colin Andrews, whom most people know is a world-renowned crop circle researcher, will be there speaking as well. You are also, Dr. Loder, going to speak about new energy technologies. That's going to be wonderful. And Lynn Katai is an authority on the Phoenix Lights, and she's from the Arizona area, and she will be there as well. And we'll have afternoon sessions, as mentioned, and then each night we'll gather under the stars to make contact together using lights and lasers and electronic tones from the crop circles that we have and that have been mentioned on other broadcasts. This is going to be an amazing weekend, and we're very excited about it. All that information is also will be on the website as well.
I might point out, go ahead, Jen.
No, this is one that we're very excited about mentioning because sometimes people can't get away for a full week to do our annual CSETI conferences. This one's going to be amazing, and some people will probably be able to make this weekend.
Right. I want to point out another little tidbit on there, which if you go to the website you'll find. But we have written a new book. It's called, at least the tentative title is, Contact, Countdown to Transformation, the CSETI Experience, 1992 to 2009. And it's by Dr. Greer, but actually when you see the book, you'll realize that the information in it is basically you take Jan's and my discussion for 20 minutes at the beginning of this hour, World Puja Hour, and you expand it to 5 days of discussion about events that have happened to us over the almost 2 decades now. And that has been compiled. A number of us got together a couple years ago, spent 5 or 6 days together discussing all the various events and experiences we've had in the book and over the years. And literally about 10 or 12 of us who had been in many of these contributed the information over 5 days. So it's just many, many hours of information and experiences that different people remember things a little differently over the years, but it was really a compilation of that. And Dr. Greer has worked on putting all that, compiling that information and making it coherent into a sequence that makes sense. And anyway, that book is coming out. I'm not sure when the out date is, but people attending that conference in Rio Rico, Arizona, will be getting a copy of that book as part of the conference fee. So that's a very exciting aspect. And as I said, you take the experiences that Jan and I talked about for a few minutes at the beginning of this hour, and you expand that to multiple days discussion. It will blow your mind about the amazing things that have happened to us over the years.
Right. And what's wonderful about this is that many people experienced it. They're usually not just one person's anecdote. It's the experience of several people.
That's right. And
confirm that the event happened.
Yes, and it's interesting because in the last year or two, we've had some very high-quality night vision cameras and video cameras with night vision capability. And suddenly we're seeing things in that night vision scope that people have been describing, have seen, but it's sort of a flash, and now suddenly here it is on video, and you can see what's happening. Very exciting.
Exactly. As we get more technologically sophisticated, we can verify more, and it's really wonderful. There's a lot of information on the websites in either digital pictures taken, but we have some other amazing footage that we wish everyone could see. And if you're at the conference, you'll be able to see it.
Yeah. By the way, that resort, basically where that meeting will be, our group, the group we're talking about, will basically have the entire place to ourselves for that 3-day conference. It's located over on 100 acres, 40 minutes outside of Tucson, Arizona, so it'll give you some location for it. And I guess it's just a spectacular location with dark skies, and it's going to be a wonderful experience.
Exactly. So we welcome anyone who wishes to come. This is one that we think, if you want a taste of the CSETI experience, this is certainly one of the places to do it.
Mm-hmm. You didn't mention, I believe you didn't mention the Mount Shasta training coming up.
Okay, Mount Shasta at the end of August. The exact dates are on the site. Please forgive me because I don't have that in front of me.
The August dates are August 23rd to August 29th.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Mount Shasta is a pretty magical place for anyone who's been there. It's a wonderful, beautiful place. We've had some incredible experiences, and that would be a wonderful place as well. If you have a week that you can spend, please come spend it with us if you'd like, because it's going to be an amazing week. They keep getting more amazing. As I say, as more contact has been made, more experience, more technologically sophisticated ways of documenting the contact. Each time it's a full week, so we welcome everyone who can fit in. I don't know how full the conference is at this point, but we do have to close it at some point to give a full experience to everyone.
That's right. So we don't know how full it is. I haven't checked recently, but if you have any interest in that, these conferences or trainings do fill up. We do limit the number of people to what makes sense in terms of our meeting room and just the overall number of people. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And as Jen said, Mount Shasta is quite spectacular. One of the field sites we have is about 7,000 to 8,000 feet elevation up on the mountain, and it's just stunning with this 14,000-foot mountain in the background with snow on it, maybe a little bit of snow at that time.
Right.
Often by August it's gone, but sometimes you see a little bit in the crevices up high. It's just beautiful.
Right.
It's just
right.
beautiful. So that's the events coming up over the next few months here. One other event that I'll mention here is one I'm involved in. And if those of you in New England, in Massachusetts or New Hampshire, there's going to be a one-day conference on, quote, the UFO phenomena, the Exeter UFO Festival. Exeter, if you remember, is the home of Betty and Barney Hill, a very famous contact event, written books about it, and also of the Exeter event that has been written about as well. And it's interesting. I've recently made contact with a former student of mine who, at the time of the Exeter event, which is not the Betty and Barney Hill event, but another one, was living in Exeter as a teenager, and she said they used to go out and watch these ET craft fly around and try to make contact with them. And I've just recently made contact with her, and she was telling me about this as a child. The young lady running out and just watching these things for days. As a result, she's been interested in the subject all her life after experiencing that firsthand as a teenager. So that's another little side on that. I'll be speaking. In fact, I'm the first speaker at that meeting. It's September 5th, which is a Saturday, September 5th, and I'll be speaking at 8:30. It goes from 8:30 to, I guess the speakers are 8:30 until 6 something, and with myself speaking about suppressed technologies and UFO information. Peter Jeremiah will be talking about the Exeter UFO event. Another woman will be speaking about the Betty and Barney Hill experiences, and several other people will be talking about various aspects of ET contact and UFO events around the country, around the world for the day. So that's a one-day event. I'm not sure how to find out more about it. Perhaps look up Exeter UFO Festival on the web and Google it and probably find it. They're still putting the whole program together. So that's something else coming up.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time today, Ted. Thank you for everyone who's listening today. If you have any questions, you know how to reach us through the website, and we appreciate your joining us today.
Yes, I'd like to add one more thing, that our energy efforts are chronicled at some level on the OrionProject.org. That's the Orion Project, one word, THE, Orion Project, all one word, .org. And you can go to that web, www.theorionproject.org, and find out more about what we do and in terms of the energy issue and our support. And we've had the Orion Project is actually supported by people interested in trying to make a change in the energy differences on this planet. And we thank all of our supporters for that. Also, the www.CSETI, I mentioned that earlier, .org, it talks about some of these trainings that we've talked about and some of these conferences and meetings. www.disclosureproject, also .org, has information relative to the Disclosure Project and the release of information with military and other witnesses, and the Press Club conference back in 2002, and what we did at that time. So there's a lot of information out that we've been involved with a number of years, and you can find it on the web in these various locations. Anything else, Jan, to mention? We're a couple minutes short of the tower, but we might end here unless you have something else to add.
That's it for today. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation.
And we thank the World Puja Network for making this possible. And Jen, I thank you as my colleague in all this for having a chance to talk to you about this thing and share it on with the World Puja Network listeners.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.